Have you ever thought about how Nintendo has something special about it? There's something that makes it different from its competition. I thought about this when I was playing on my DS and got nostalgic for it. It got me thinking about all the special things about Nintendo, the DS, the Wii, the Switch, the great games, whatever it was. I kept thinking about these things, and I was able to think about all these special things about Nintendo, but I wanted to know exactly what about these things were special. For years I've thought about this question, and I thought making a video on it would answer it. Well, I think the first, most obvious thing that's unique about Nintendo is their games. They have always been known for their quality of games. Nintendo has extremely iconic characters in games, and there's definitely a reason for that, because they take their good character ideas and capitalize off of them by making good games with the character. They do this time and time again with Mario games, Mario spin-offs, Zelda games, Animal Crossing games, and others. I can only think of one recent Nintendo game that wasn't considered amazing by most people who played it, which was Paper Mario: The Origami King, released in 2020, but even that game was just considered mediocre, not bad or anything. Nintendo is willing to take extremely long delays to improve a game that they don't think will be of quality. For example, for Metroid Prime 4, the studio Nintendo had hired to make the game wasn't able to make the game that Nintendo thought was worthy, so they scrapped the entire project and gave it to a new studio. Nintendo knew that they would be pushing back the release date by years, but they still did it so that the game didn't turn out poorly. That's partly why Nintendo is so great, because their quality of games just makes you want to play their games even more. Part of the reason the games are so high quality is because of the music within them. This is easily one of the most important aspects to a game. Nintendo always hires amazing composers to work on their video games, like Koji Kondo or Manaka Kataoka. I'm gonna play you some great music from Super Mario Galaxy. The fact that this isn't a Mario game is honestly astonishing to me. This is an amazingly orchestrated song that proves why Nintendo is seen as so high quality. As I've said in a previous video and may say 1,000 times more, music is really what completes a game, movie, show, whatever. If a game has terrible music, it really makes the game worse and makes it seem like it's not as good as it may be. Nintendo clearly realizes this, which is why they always get such good composers for their video games. Also, I think that the music is the best part that comes from Nintendo games, which really says a lot when their games are so good. That's how good their music is. The amount of time that I've listened to the Animal Crossing New Leaf and Super Mario Odyssey soundtracks is actually a little bit concerning. They don't only have amazingly good music in games, but also on their systems. The DSi, Wii, Wii U, and 3DS all had such amazing system music, it just makes me want to absolutely bounce until I can't absolutely bounce anymore. Each system had their own unique sound to them, which is really interesting to me. I especially love the 3DS music, I just love the feel of it. The music separates each console from another, which is such a cool idea to me. It just makes the systems feel all the better and more unique. The 3DS system itself is extremely unique too. All of the Nintendo systems are unique. No Nintendo system is too similar to another one. Nintendo always likes to do something new with each upcoming console. Nobody is ever truly able to predict what Nintendo is about to do. For example, people probably could have expected another DS-type console after the DSi, and they were right, but nobody could have predicted that it would have 3D. Obviously, in the end, the 3D was just kind of a gimmick that nobody used, but it was enough to get the console on its feet and get people talking about it and buying it. Nintendo seems to always be able to make a good gimmick, especially with the Nintendo Switch. The switching from portable to docked mode and using the Joy-Cons are both gimmicks that people were both excited for and actually used, something that the 3DS lacked. Sometimes, their gimmicks don't work though. The obvious example of this is the Wii U. The Wii U had a gimmick, which was the gamepad, that nobody really seemed interested in. Part of the reason it performed so poorly was the terrible name and marketing, but the Wii U probably could have done a little bit better if they had a more interesting gimmick. The fact that Nintendo is willing to take a risk on the next console tells a lot about how they are as a company though. They would rather put more effort into a more interesting idea than putting out something boring. As a company, they prefer doing something more interesting and affordable than making the next PC of a console. This helps appeal to a lot more people too, because people who have a PC aren't usually going to want to get an Xbox or a PS5, but they would have more of an incentive to get a Switch because it has Nintendo exclusives and brings something new to the table. Another thing that I thought was interesting was a point made by Michael Brands on Quora about the specialty of Nintendo, saying, because in actuality, Nintendo doesn't see itself as a video game company. They see themselves as a toy company, which is understandable considering their roots. This is very true. In the era before they were a video game company, they were actually a toy company. The person that created the Game Boy, Gunpei Yokoi, actually created a few toys for Nintendo before he made the Game Boy. I'm assuming that Nintendo saw that making toy-like gaming products could work for them in the future, which is why they continued with that same idea ever since. It's easy to see that Nintendo almost wants to be considered a toy company. Nintendo consoles just scream toy to me. Not only are the consoles toy-like, but they also release many things that are not just kinda toys, but they are literally toys. These are things like the Nintendo Labo, the Ring Fit Adventure, and that weird Mario Kart in real life toy thing. Nintendo Labo reminded a lot of people of Lego because of building the product yourself, which just proves how toy-like the product is. The Nintendo products, in my opinion, are extremely successful and unique as a result of Nintendo trying to push fun new ideas in their products. Nintendo also creates uniqueness with nostalgia. They create nostalgia and then later capitalize off that nostalgia to make more money. That's what they did with Super Mario Odyssey. They added portions with 2D, 8-bit Mario to sell more copies of the game off of nostalgia. These are all big reasons for Nintendo's distinctiveness and why they're different in a good way. Nintendo is a great example of proof for the idea that trying something new will eventually pay off. Even if you fail sometimes, you will eventually find success. That's why I think Nintendo is unique. They provide a mixture of extremely quality products and new creative ideas to make something great. I hope that Nintendo never stops trying to make new consoles, even if they're in a good console drought, because I love what they do. I know I've kind of been sucking up to Nintendo a lot in this video, which is probably because I have a lot of distortion of judgment from nostalgia. I'm sure that people who grew up on PlayStation or Xbox are groaning about how much of a Nintendo fanboy I am, which is fair because in their eyes they probably feel like Xbox or PlayStation are more of a special company than Nintendo. Either way, I'm still making this video, be mad if you want. If you think I missed anything about Nintendo, just let me know in the comments because I'm actually curious. It's 3 AM and I think it's time for me to get some sleep. Thank you all for watching. I'll catch you in the next upload. Bye!